This is going to explode your sales this year, and what we need to build in order to do this is something called an OSS, okay? Now, what this basically means, okay, is this is a predictable, this is a scalable, and this is a repeatable way to get new customers. And when you have this, you can just crank the volume on it and get as many clients as you could possibly want. So I'm going to show you how to build this. But first, what we need in place in order to do this properly, I'm going to move the camera over here, is we are going to need the foundations in place, okay? Now, this is not something that you've this is definitely not something that you've seen before, unless you've worked with me in the past, but I call these the 3 anchors, okay? Now, excuse my little weird drawing of some anchors, okay? But what these 3 things are is, number 1 is your market, is the problem that your market has, and it is the solution that you have to solve this problem, okay? So the first thing, before we can do any of this, is we actually need to make sure that the people we're selling to actually want the thing we're selling really, really badly. Not just want it. There can't just be some people who might want your thing. They have to desperately, desperately need this thing, okay? So, how do we do this? So first of all, everything is going to revolve around this M here. Is the market, is the niche, is your ICP, whatever you want to call it, okay? Now, the reason why we have to have this in place is for a few different reasons, right? So a lot of people will make the argument that I don't want to have a target market. I just want to sell my thing that I'm selling to every single person on the planet, okay? Now, here's the issue that you're going to run into, is that when you're trying to make a marketing message that's going to be able to predictably, scalably, and repeatably convert these people, you're not really going to be able to have a specific enough marketing message to be able to actually attract these people, right? So although maybe you can fulfill your service for this, like for all markets, right, you're not really going to be able to make them feel like it's for them, right? So we need to have this thing defined so that we can properly address their problem and properly solve it, okay? So the second thing is the problem that this market has, okay? So this is the issue that a lot of marketing agencies have, a lot of consultants have, right? Is they will just have a product, right? They'll have a solution, let's say Facebook ads is an easy example, right? And then they'll just try and sell that to the market that they think wants it, right? But the problem is, when your entire business, right, it's going to depend on basically supply and demand, okay? And if you are just picking the thing you want to sell without knowing if there's actually demand for it, you're not really setting yourself up for success, right? So if you're just picking your solution, irrespective of the problem and the market, you're not going to get very far, okay? So what we need to do here is we need to do some market research, which is not fun, but this is where you make a lot of money, okay? And we need to figure out what is the burning problem that these people have. Once we know this, now we have our second anchor, which is the problem, okay? And with this problem, right, now we can go about solving it, right? So the thing here, right, now we can come up with the solution. Now we can do, like, this part is not as hard, where we just have to see, okay, well, I talked to a bunch of roofers, for example, if that's your market. They said they need leads. That's the problem. And the solution is Facebook ads, right? But what people do is they'll just pick, okay, I'm going to sell SEO, for example, right? Whatever the case may be. Now, if they just pick that and their market that they pick, right, doesn't happen to already want SEO, for example, right? The problem is not having SEO, then they're not really going to want to buy it, okay? Now, the problem is also that no one really has a problem with SEO. And whenever I ask my clients this too, no one seems to actually understand what a problem is until I properly understand it, or until I properly explain it, rather. So I'm going to move this back over to here because we're running out of space again. But basically, what we need to identify is what the prospect understands with regards to their problem, okay? So there's something called the... what is it called? This is basically, there's something called the buyer awareness, I don't know, I call it a triangle, whatever, right? So you have these 3 levels of awareness. I think there's more, but the 3 is simple enough, right? So you have people who are solution aware, you have people who are problem aware, and you have people who are unaware, right? And what this basically means is if you have, like, most of the market, you're going to have, like, probably like 70% of the market are completely unaware that they even have a problem to begin with. You have probably 25% of the market who are aware of the specific problem that they're dealing with, right? So they understand, right, like maybe the problem is that they're not getting enough like I'm going to use my example. I help agency owners book more meetings, right? So maybe they understand they have a problem of not getting enough meetings, right? But they don't necessarily know the best solution yet. And then 5% of the market is actually aware of the solution, right? So if you come into a market, for example, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to help you with SEO. The only people who are going to be interested in SEO, number one, are people who are already up here, which is a very small percentage of the market, right? And on top of that, the people who are already up here, right, are already looking for the SEO. So what you're basically doing is you're trying to offer your service to a people who are already looking for your service. And when you are just basically going into a market of people who are already looking for the thing, you're basically going to end up in a race to the bottom where people are just going to see you as this SEO business rather than someone who's going to actually solve the problem, right? But, I mean, I'm just making these kind of percentages up, but it's like a relatively accurate example. But if we're taking the other 30%, 35, 25% of the market who is problem aware, right? We're not going to go into this market and say, hey, we're going to help you with SEO. What we're going to do is we're going to go into this market and say, hey, we can help you get more leads. And then when they get on the sales call, then you explain that the way that you get them more leads is through the solution of SEO. So now we can actually successfully reach out to a larger amount of people, and we can actually charge higher ticket because there's a lot more value in solving the problem than giving them a service, okay? So that's the foundations. Now let's talk about building an OSS. And this jacket is not a very good eraser, but we're gonna do our best, all right? So an OSS means we need a predictable, so we're gonna put this percent sign. We need a repeatable, which is this arrow, and then we need scalable, which is this other arrow, okay? If we have this, we can get infinite clients. Obviously this is gonna be limited by your TAM, but like pretty much for all of you that are not making like 10 million a year, this is gonna apply, okay? So this first part is predictable, okay? So what we need in place is we need a system that we know exactly what percentage of people are going to convert, okay? Ooh, I just dropped my marker, so we're gonna use this blue one now. All right, so in order to build something like this, we basically need, like these two are kind of intertwined in a way, okay? So in order to build something that's predictable, it means we need to do the same thing over and over again. So probably if you're doing outreach, for example, the odds are that you're not doing the exact same outreach message and conversation sequence every single time, right? And what this means is this percentage is not based on a system. It's based on your ability to sell people over like chat or over through email or through a cold call or whatever the case may be, right? And when it's reliant on your skills, that is more difficult to scale, this part, than a system, okay? So I built in place, to give you an example, is my main way of getting clients from me is through LinkedIn outreach, okay? So what I basically built and what I had to do myself is I had to originally come up with a series of actions that I would take, like basically like robotically, in order to get them to book. Now this doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be a robot. In fact, there's a lot of personalization that comes into this, but it's not like, it's a very easy replicatable way to do it, right? So this is how we do it. So the first thing that we send our prospects is we send a voice note. This is like my little microphone, okay? And then if they are interested in me, what I said in this voice note, I'm basically like, hey, if I could help you get more appointments, would you be open to having a little chat, right? That's obviously not exactly what it is, but like pretty much, okay? If they're interested in that, we send them our little pitch, okay? And this, right now we're testing a couple things, but right now we're using an AI Loom video that basically says their name inside of the Loom video, and I only recorded it once, which is pretty cool. And then that converts a lot of people, okay? So we get about 15% of people to be interested in the voice note. And then people who are interested in the pitch, like to ask to book a call from this pitch, is about 7%. And then we get about 5 of people who schedule on a meeting, 5% of people from the actual initial outreach. So if we send 20 messages, we typically get 1 appointment from that, okay? Now, what is important about this is not like me doing it. I mean, I had to do it originally, right? But this is not something that's very difficult, right? If I gave you this voice note, I gave you this pitch, I gave you this calendar booking link, and I gave you my strategy to get all the people to message in the first place, you could do the same thing, okay? And that's why when I was doing this on 2 LinkedIn accounts, right? And I was booking like whatever it was, like 2 meetings a day from this. When I got my setter, like I just hired a setter, no clue about anything to do with appointment setting. When I hired him, I just gave him all this. I gave him my accounts. Everything is the same, right? Nothing's changing here. But I gave him an extra 8 accounts, okay? So it wasn't surprising that when I was booking 2 meetings a day here, and he just had 5 times the amount of accounts, he booked 5 times the amount of meetings, and he books me 10 meetings a day, okay? That is what scalable is, okay? And this is what repeatable is, okay? So when you have a system that is predictable, you're doing the same thing every time, you know exactly what percent of people are converting, and you have the ability to replicate it over and over and over again, then it becomes scalable, and then you can get infinite clients, okay? Now, once you've done this at a high enough level, the thing becomes about still doing more, okay? So the next step for me is right now I just sent out a job application I posted a job application, and now I'm just hiring 5 times more of these people, okay? So Alex Hormozy said this quote, which was super powerful. It was like, something along the lines of like, you have to be in the frame of mind of like, what would it take, right? You have this like massive goal, like I'm trying to triple the business in the next 3 months. What would it take to be able to accomplish that, right? And what I realized is, well, I have a system that's predictable, right? It's repeatable, and because I mean, I like had my setter who's completely new to setting, just repeat it perfectly, and he actually made it better because he's doing it full time and he figured some shit out, and then scalable, right? Because there's like, I mean, I'm not even close to capping out my market, and we're making just over 100 grand a month in revenue right now. So there's no reason why if I don't 5 times the amount of appointment setters, now obviously there's going to be some shit ones in here, so it'll probably end up being actually like 2 more appointment setters, which is still triple what I have because I only have 1. Then I will triple the business, right? And that's where it becomes simple. The easy part of client acquisition is scaling this once you know this formula. The hard part is getting these 3 anchors right. But once you have that, and once you have built this predictability, it's so easy because you're just doing more of what already works. And this is like my expertise. And I help consultants and agencies build out these systems so they can actually scale predictably, scalably, repeatably without having to like worry every single second, every single day about where the next client's going to come from. So if you would like me to build you an OSS, I have a link that will lead you to a funnel that will explain how I can help you do that. You don't have to click it if you don't want to, but it works pretty well. And we get make a lot of clients or money for our clients. So if you want to check that out, you can. If not, I'll see you in the next one.